All right. Welcome back, my friends, to the public hearing that never ends. It is the Environment and Transportation Committee. I'm your friendly chairman. I'm your friendly chairman, Kumar Barve. I'm joined by my equally friendly vice chairman, Dana Stein, and the happy members of the Environment and Transportation Committee. We have 15 bills today. We have 43 witnesses. The first bill will be by that miscreant Delegate Kumar Barve, followed by House Bill 1331, Delegate McKay, House Bill 51, Delegate Motz, House Bill 514, the Charles County Delegation with, I don't know who's presenting. Anyway, House Bill 1415, Charles County Delegation, House Bill 1428, Charles County Delegation, House Bill 646, Delegates Proctor and R. Jones, House Bill 728, Carroll County Delegation, House Bill 1182, Carroll County Delegation, House Bill 811, the Montgomery County Delegation, with Delegate Lutke presenting, House Bill 913, Calvert County Delegation, House Bill 914, also Calvert County Delegation, House Bill 1262, Delegate Motz and Adams, House Bill 1391, Delegate Frazier Hidalgo, and final bill, House Bill 1433, Delegate Walker. And as I announced on the floor of the House, we will have a public voting session after our public hearing. And so let me begin by introducing House Bill 1411. Many years ago, I remember a friend of my father's actually was commenting about the fact that in Europe, whenever they build a highway, they just automatically throw down the train tracks right down next to it or in the median strip. And typically, the people stuck in traffic get to see the transit riders zipping past them at nearly 100 miles an hour. And my father, I remember saying, somebody should really do that here in the United States. So even though he's been dead for a quarter century almost, somebody is going to do something about that, and that's going to be our committee. The vice chairman and I have introduced this bill that basically says that when an initial project planning phase of a highway or road expansion, they would have to evaluate and consider the possibility of using adjacent rights of way for transit, such as subway, heavy or light rail, above or below ground rail, and or monorail, including but not limited to those things. Now, I'm under no illusions here. There's nothing in this bill which has no signed up opponents, and apparently nobody signed up to testify either. There's nothing in this bill that is a hammer that forces anyone to do anything. But to my way of thinking, we really should be thinking very carefully about using existing rights of way for rail. It would be wonderful if it were possible to go from Gaithersburg to Baltimore, or Gaithersburg to Western Maryland, or Gaithersburg to Ocean City and not have to use a car. That would be a lovely option if it were feasible and logical. And so I'm introducing this bill so that we can begin a conversation that I know will take several years. Having said that, I hope that you can move favorably on this bill. No pressure. First question goes to Delegate Ruth.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And so first of all, I just want to say I love this bill. I think this is something really important that we should be doing for sure. And I understand what you're saying about a hammer, not, and that would be much more difficult. But I wonder, it seems like would you consider maybe a reporting requirement that to show that they, whatever their evaluation is that they do, that has to be made public?
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea.
Thank you.
Amendment Sheila Ruth. Okay. Delegate Foley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I too love this bill, and not just because of the people that introduced it, but I think it's a great idea. I just have one question. Is an expressway defined anywhere in the law, or do you have a concept of what that is? I mean, I can picture in my mind like
Yeah, I believe.
I-270. Yeah, but
Well,
I mean, is there any limitation on that or?
No, I don't think so. I can certainly have legal staff check on that. I will tell you that, of course, we've had extensive debate on the widening of I-270 and of transportation between Frederick and Bethesda, basically. A lot of people who live near the city of Frederick who work in Montgomery County. And, at no point is there any indication or evidence that any kind of rail transit alternative or additive feature was ever considered. I understand that they are doing an evaluation of the monorail proposal. And I don't know, I don't know if the monorail is the right way to go. I've had friends in the transit space basically argue that elevated standard rail is a much smarter way to go. I just think that we should look into it and make it part of the discussion. Delegate Parrott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to clarify on that, I was part of the State Highway Administration way back in the day when they were seriously looking at I-270, the widening project. They called it the I-270 multimodal corridor study. And they weren't just looking at widening, they looked at metro rail, they looked at light rail, they looked at bus rapid transit and widening the road. So all those had to be considered in what we submitted to the Federal Highway to get the FHWA approval.
You're right. However, I'll be blunt. I've read the reports that were made, and I never had the impression that they were ever seriously considered. It seemed to me more of a box checking exercise more than anything else. And the part of the reason for the bill is that I really want to bring this into the ecosystem of conversation for these things. And I'm not, I am aware of that. There was an environmental impact study, an economic study surrounding the extension of the Red Line to Frederick, for example, and it failed. The NEPA study failed. But that's not the kind of, going from the Shady Grove Road metro station up to the city of Frederick probably is not the kind of pathway that I would envision. I would hope that we could use already existing rights of way to the greatest extent possible. Now, maybe they did that in that study. I don't remember that they did it in quite that way. But in any case, I think it's part of the conversation that we have to have. Okay, well, guess what? That's the end of the public hearing for that bill. Let's go to House Bill 1331. Delegate McKay, welcome to the Environment and Transportation Committee. You have 4 minutes.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Chairman Barvey and Vice Chair Stein and members of the Environmental and Transportation Committee. My name is Delegate Mike McKay, and it is a privilege to introduce House Bill 1331, the Coal Ash Recycling Act of 2022. Now, this bill directs the development of a statewide facility that would be designed as a recycling deposits of coal ash active disposal sites. It requires the certain materials used in the state, including coal ash, as a component of the material, requiring materials used be for the protection and stabilization of shorelines, precast concrete forms, casting, and non-structural applications. It would also require a contractor license in the state of Maryland to use and give preference to these materials that include coal ash, requiring any person utilizing materials in the state that is included coal ash to give preference, and hiring local employees in certain work and submit certain information, etc. My legislative goals with this bill is simply to supply a made in America sustainable construction strategy to collaborate with the private companies, academia, state and federal agencies, building generational rural economic development clusters to meet the green infrastructure demands. Second, a public-private partnership networks like the Sustainable Materials Management Maryland, known as SM3, program to implement sustainable initiatives for shovel-ready projects in legacy coal communities. And finally, to create a well-paid, unionized rural job opportunities in legacy coal communities throughout innovative waste to value projects in a robust just transition framework of Maryland and Appalachia. This green cement can be used for non-structural applications, precast forms, and other types castings. In addition, the product can be used for the shoreline erosion and restoration programs for Maryland that are on the horizon. These programs in Maryland estimate to cost $27 billion over the next 20 years, and similar coastal America projects are estimated to be in the excess of $400 billion. Materials and expertise addressing the new demands add for a criteria infrastructure. I do have, and it's important, 2 amendments for you to consider and a slideshow concerning coal ash storage in the Chesapeake Bay watershed, which is in your committee testimony. Amendment number 1 does strike wind turbine foundations and substitutes non-structural applications. Amendment number 2 inserts to the extent required by project specifications and consistent with sound engineering principles. These 2 amendments are a result of trying to work with stakeholders and to make this a good bill going forward. In conclusion, efforts in Western Maryland and statewide pursuant to the development of low carbon beneficial uses for waste coal ash will align with the state's objectives in innovation, the environment, and a post-coal framework. Reducing the manufacturing of virgin cement and the associated greenhouse gases emissions will help to support the climate goals of our state, our region, and around the world. The millions of tons of waste coal ash in storage can be produced for a benefit for Marylanders, creating needed building materials, project opportunities for students, and a new workforce jobs throughout the region. In conclusion, please note that the department's letter on informational letter from MDOT and the last second to last statement is that they thought that prior to implementation of House Bill 1331, it would be more beneficial to conduct a study on the use of materials, its costs, any possible effects that this would have for state projects. And we're amendable to that suggestion as well.
Okay.
In conclusion, I urge you to vote favorable on House Bill 1331. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You know, Delegate McKay, I think the last time you were in my committee, you were dressed up as Winnie the Pooh and you had a beret on your head. And
I did, sir. But I didn't think we could get the same effect as if I dressed up as coal ash.
Right. I was about to say that I think it was wise for you not to have done that in this case. Okay, let's go to the witnesses who are signed up in favor. Let's begin with Brandon Butler, who is testifying in favor of the bill. Brandon, welcome to the committee. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Brandon Butler with Pinnacle Strategies on behalf of my client, Sono Ash, in support of House Bill 1331. This measure offers an opportunity for a made in Maryland solution, as the delegate said, for Maryland's long-term infrastructure and shoreline protection needs. Utilizing ash for concrete construction is not new. As a matter of fact, so the Romans even utilized volcanic ash for construction projects, and specifically marine applications 2,000 years ago, and those projects are still standing to this day. Today, coal ash is recognized as an additive in the cement ready mix applications globally. The U.S. Navy specifies high ash content cement mixtures for their pure applications because of the natural saltwater resiliency. This formula has a unique benefit of being lower carbon building materials because of the reduced amount of virgin cement clinker. Over the next 20 years, as the delegate mentioned, it's estimated that the state of Maryland will have to invest in tens of billions of dollars to address shoreline restoration. And so that's what this bill focuses on, a made in Maryland value solution. My client, Sono Ash, approaches the upscaling of the coal fly ash in a patented non-thermo closed loop process that doesn't allow for fugitive emissions, protects the environment, and we're currently working with the University of Maryland system through the Maryland Industrial Partnership Program at College Park, as well as with Frostburg State University, to develop these solutions and multiple uses for Maryland coal ash. So in conclusion, this is a triple win that quite frankly doesn't often exist in government. We want to thank the sponsor of the bill and request the committee's favorable consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, signed up favorable with amendments, Champ McCulloch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Champ McCulloch on behalf of the Maryland Associated General Contractors. Let me make my testimony short and sweet. This is a good bill. It does something that will be beneficial over the long run. The only concern that we had was the need for contractors to adhere rigidly to specifications. The amendment which Delegate McKay offers as part of his testimony solves our problem, and therefore with that amendment, we would urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Okay, it appears that the people who are signed up in opposition are not testifying, I believe. So let's go straight to questions. The first question goes to Delegate Healy.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Delegate McKay, for trying to do something, but I have real concerns. I grew up in coal country and I understand how toxic coal ash can be. And I know that it's been used in the past for a lot of things, but I'm not sure that at that time, people were aware of just how toxic this byproduct of coal is. And so my question for you is, do you have scientific data, peer-reviewed scientific data that shows that these are uses that will not spread the toxins wherever these are applied?
Well, as you may or may not know, Delegate, thank you for the question. It is true that we do have deposits, and I have included in your testimony basically a map and a legend of these deposits that are all through the state. And whether it be the Sierra Club or those, we know that we need to take care of these particular deposits. Recently, I believe it was New York and Virginia. While our situation is not exactly the same as theirs, across the country, everybody is trying to address it. So with a couple of different technologies that are out there that what we are would like the department to look at and determine, yes, it can be a safe way to address and finally put to bed this issue of what to do with the coal ash.
I'm asking for peer-reviewed scientific papers or how to find them.
Yeah, so I will regroup with you and get some of that information to you. So if I may, I'd like to follow up with you later, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, next question goes to Delegate Holmes.
Mr. Chair, I was hoping to be the final question.
Okay, in that case, the next question goes to Delegate Bagnall, who is visiting us from the HGO committee, along with Kathy Shalaga and Delegate Belcastro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm just following up on Delegate Healy's question. If you could share that information with the members of HGO that are also on this call. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am, I will.
Okay, Delegate Boyce.
Sorry, two-screen issue. Thank you, Delegate McKay, for innovation. I did want to ask about whether or not this is us importing ash from other places versus relying on continued use of coal, correct?
Well, as we get to a post-coal economy, we still have tons and tons of ash that needs to be addressed and basically cleaned up. Well, I don't have the exact amount of years just across in Western Maryland, just across in a place called state of West Virginia, we have a coal-fired plant that has years upon years of ash that needs to be cleaned up. And that is close enough to Maryland that it is having an environmental effect in the state of Maryland. So this is a dealing with a post-coal economy and how we go ahead and clean that up.
Understood. And so by bringing this bill, it is your estimation, along with, I guess, your panelists, is that there is enough post ash to create this industry?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Probably 20 to 30 years worth of ash. And we'll get more documentation to the full committee to back that up. But yes, this is an issue that's not going away and is on the horizon. And it's going to be something that we do have to address.
Well, we'll look forward to the details. Thank you so much.
Okay, now, last but not least, unless somebody goes after you, Marvin Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And this question may seem to be a little bit unusual because primarily I'm addressing the question to Delegate Wyville. Delegate Wyville, would you not agree that based upon testimony that we heard a couple of weeks ago, that Delegate McKay has beautiful hair?
Absolutely. I believe he is sporting a coal ash gel.
Yes,
So I am comfortable.
I have to say, I do encourage this kind of behavior among the members of my committee. Delegate Stewart, what wise ass thing do you have?
Just a brief follow-up for the bill sponsor, who I have a lot of respect for bringing this bill, which is that can you confirm or deny that you have used a coal ash hair product in your hair for today?
While it was not for today, the long-lasting effects of coal ash in hair products does last for 1 or 2 days. It gives me that extinguished or distinguished look, depending on how I feel each morning as I wake up.
And if you could just share that brand name with the committee and also with the HGO committee, that would be extremely helpful to us. Thank you.
Yes, it's a brand that I brought from, you know, they have like Dr. Stewart, this one is a Dr. Berry, and it came to me as somebody was passing and had brought and shared this fine product with me.
Well, let the record show that Delegate Stiliberti and perhaps Delegate Stein could use some of that, whereas Champ McCullough will have no use whatsoever for it. So there you go. Okay, that ends the public hearing on House Bill 1331. Thank you, one and all. Let's move now to House Bill 51. Delegate Motz, are you in the House? Is Delegate Motz with us?
They are working to unmute, it looks like.
Okay. Well, he has 2 bills in our committee, and I'm going to change the order to have Mr. Johnny, you're there. Listen, you have 51, and you also appear to have House Bill 1262. And if you don't mind, maybe you can take both of those.
Absolutely. Okay? Absolutely.
Okay. All right. I'm going to change the order of the bills here. So why don't you start off with House Bill 51, and you have 4 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman and colleagues. It's great to be with you. HB 51 is a delegation bill for Talbot County, and it would add Sunday hunting for turkey and deer season. It would be a total of 8, I believe, additional days. 5 of those being during the turkey season, the 3 being during deer hunting season. This is for private land only. This bill has been approved by the committee in the past. In its previous version, as it was presented, it included public land. There's only 1 public land in Talbot County. We've removed that from the bill, so this is for private land only. I'd encourage a favorable report, or urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Signed up. It appears that the only person, there are people who are for and against the bill, but the only person who has signed up to testify is an opponent, I believe, and that's Jane Siegler. So Jane, welcome back to the committee. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Unlike the previous Sunday hunting bills you've heard so far this session, this bill really is just about deer and turkey. But to correct the record, according to the DNR 2122 hunting calendar, Talbot County currently has 7 Sundays. This bill would expand hunting in Talbot to every Sunday in October, November, December, and half of January, plus an additional 5 Sundays in April. So that is the effect of this bill. For the reasons stated in the prior hearings, we oppose expanding Sunday hunting, and therefore we urge an unfavorable vote.
Okay, questions? I don't see any questions. So that appears to be the end of the public hearing for House Bill 51, Johnny. So let's go to House Bill 1262.
Thank you, Chairman. House Bill 1262 is another Talbot County delegation bill. It would authorize the town of Oxford to maintain a traffic speed camera at the entrance of the town of Oxford on Bonfield Avenue. And
didn't we pass this bill last year?
Yes, it has been approved last year.
Oh, so did it fail in the Senate?
Well, no, it got approved 2 years ago, COVID, and it died during COVID when we had the back and forth between the House and the Senate. Remember?
Okay.
Yeah.
So it didn't get implemented then. Okay.
Exactly.
Got it. Okay. Pardon me. I cut you short there. Do you have anything more you want to say?
Just urge a favorable report, and I appreciate your consideration.
Okay. Also testifying in favor of the bill, Cheryl Lewis, who I can't remember. I remember you, but I don't remember if you were the mayor or what your position was. Ms. Lewis?
Cheryl Long.
You know, I did change the order of the bills, and maybe she's been caught unknowing.
She was in the call earlier. She may have left.
Oh. Well, okay. Well, Delegate Wyville has a question, and if she pops up sometime, we'll take her. So, Delegate Wyville.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate, I was just wondering, does this bill have the real-time posting with speed amendment on it as introduced, or are you receptive to an amendment for that?
We're receptive.
Okay, thank you.
Delegate Siliberte. You need to unmute, sir.
There you go.
Yep.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman. Okay, you are emphasizing the intersection of Maryland Route 333 and Bonfield Road. You're doing that because, why are you singling that out?
Well, they want to have authorization for one location to have the camera. It is the point of deceleration going into the town of Oxford. The town has exhausted traffic calming alternatives, working with State Highway, and it's also happens to be the exact location of a horrific accident where the president of the Ladies Fire Department Auxiliary was run over and killed in front of her family and in front of a large number of the volunteer fire companies. She lived right across the street, and it's right at the deceleration point, and they post up traffic there often with police, and they cite vehicles all the time coming in at a high rate of speed, and so it's a point. This has been played out by the town through a number of public hearings. And there's a wide agreement. The town voted unanimously for that location. It's a one lane road. If you go straight on that road 333, also known as Peach Blossom, you actually drive into the Tread Avenue River. So, I mean, you start slowing down as you come into town, and you don't go any faster. So,
okay, understood. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Delegate Love had her hand up, but I guess she doesn't anymore. So, all right.
Mr. Chairman, Cheryl Lewis is here now.
Oh, okay, Cheryl. Welcome to the committee. You've got 2 minutes. Good to see you.
Thank you. I apologize. I've tried to join 3 times, but I live out here in rural Eastern Shore, and connecting has not been easy, and I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
You were correct. This has been in front of you before, and as Johnny mentioned, this is really a state highway to nowhere, and the speed never increases once it reaches 25. We did some measurements today, and there is a warning sign 650 feet in front of the 25-mile-an-hour change. The 25-mile-an-hour change also contains a flashing "This is your speed" sign that has been active for 2 years now, and it's another 750 feet before the camera. So there's 1,400 feet before someone needs to be going 36 or 37, 12 above the 25. We know this is not making us money. We know this is not for profit. This is really to assist us. We have a 2-officer police department right now. We've been unsuccessful in finding the 3rd officer for over a year. And we need to do something to keep this safe. And the area Johnny was talking about where our member was killed is a school bus stop. I saw 2 children standing on the corner the other day. So we really just need help. And that.
Well, it's a good thing that she got her message out before she froze up. Any more questions for the sponsor or for Ms. Lewis? Okay. All right. Well, that ends the public hearing on House Bill 1262. Thanks a lot, Johnny.
Thank you.
Okay, let's now go to House Bill 514, Charles County Delegation, and I believe Charon Lanier is presenting. I hope I got your name correct, sir.
Yes, you did. Thank you, Chairman Barr. Well, good afternoon, Chairman, Vice Chair, and members of the Environment and Transportation Committee. My name is Charon Lanier. I'm Chief of Staff of Delegate Deborah Davis, who is also Chair of the Charles County Delegation. I'm here to present a few bills for the delegation. Are we going to present them in order then?
Yeah, well, I've got 514, 1415, 1428 in that order.
Okay, thank you. So the first one, House Bill 514, it looks to expand Sunday hunting in Charles County. That will mean that during the open season for game, bird, or mammal, the Department of Natural Resources will be able to allow people in Charles County to hunt then on those Sundays. The commissioner support letter and the delegates voting list have been submitted for the record, and we're open to amendments if they're proposed, but we request a favorable amendment, a favorable report.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's turn to Gilbert Bowling, who is a Charles County Commissioner. Gilbert, welcome to the Environment and Transportation Committee. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Don't believe he is present.
Okay. Well, the only other person signed up in opposition, and it is Jane Siegler. So welcome back, Jane. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Unlike the Calvert bill that you just heard, this is another of the all game birds and all game mammals year-round bills. I think the committee is well aware of why we object to those, so I would like to take a moment to talk a bit more about the safety concerns, which are so important now when so many new, inexperienced users are exploring the outdoors. In our 8-page hunting accident report that we submitted with our testimony, we listed over 50 accidents taken mostly from DNR's public records, plus a few from local media. This list includes only accidents that resulted in actual injury to people or property. So it does not include the countless times when people or pets are frightened by gunshots or feel projectiles whizzing past them. This is people actually getting shot in their backyards, bullets entering occupied homes. Sometimes these accidents happen because the hunter is not paying attention to his background. Sometimes the victim is actually targeted because the shooter thought the victim was a game animal. I urge you to put the safety of your constituents ahead of the convenience of the 2% of the population wanting a 7th day to hunt. One of my friends was out hiking on a hunting day in white-tailed deer season. She saw a young couple hiking with a toddler carried on the man's shoulders. The toddler had on a white knit cap with a big white pom-pom on top in white-tailed deer season. I ask you to think about that and give this bill an unfavorable report. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Questions, Delegate Jay Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the gentleman that presented the bill, I may have missed it, but is this on private land only?
That distinction is not made as the bill is written. No, sir.
So you don't know if it's on just private land?
I don't believe it is limited to just private land as the bill is written.
All right. Well, we'll have to look that up in subcommittee. Thank you.
Delegate Boyce.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. I wanted to ask Miss, where did she go?
Siegler?
Oh, Miss Siegler, yes. Of the report that you sent out, I'm trying to pull it up now. How many of those accidents were in Charles County?
I can't tell you off the top of my head, but the report does list the counties in the actual report.
It does. And then can I go back to Mr. Lanier? Do you know any of accidents occurring, hunting accidents occurring in Charles County? And if so, how many?
Yes, we have not been made aware of an amount of accidents in the county from the commissioners and otherwise as of now.
Okay, thank you.
Delegate Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To the gentleman that's presenting the bill, did Charles County Commissioners hold a public hearing on their legislative request for the county? A public hearing where citizens could come and express their views on this proposed legislation?
Yes, sir. I believe that hearing was made or happened in November.
Did you have any negative comments on this legislation from that public hearing?
I'm not aware. I did not anticipate that question, but can I get back to you then?
Yes, please.
Awesome, thank you.
And today we that's fine. Just get back to me with that if there's anybody
We'll get back to
that cares.
We'll get back to our actually, Mr. Lanier, get back to our committee and we'll disseminate the information.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, yes, sir.
Delegate Boyce, do you have another question?
Yes, just very quickly, Mr. Lanier, please look at Ms. Siegler's report. Charles County is reporting that I can see at least 2 accidents occurring in 2013, as well as I'm sorry, my eyes aren't what they used to be. But I would just ask you to check the report.
Will do.
Okay. All righty then. I think that ends the public hearing on House Bill 514. Let's now go to House Bill 1415. Again, Mr. Lanier.
So House Bill 1415 will look to define agricultural land management practices as it relates to the statutory provisions governing erosion and sediment control plans.
Okay.
Commissioners' letters. Okay. The commissioners' letters and delegates voting lists have been submitted for the record, and we request a favorable report.
All right, terrific. No one else has signed up to testify either for or against. Oh, wait a minute. Well, nobody signed up to testify for or against, but some people have submitted written testimony in both directions. We have a question from Delegate Healy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me okay?
You're a little faint.
Okay, let me try again. Is this better?
Slightly.
Okay,
I can hear you though. Go ahead.
Okay. What I really would like to know is if you have, I'm sorry, I got discombobulated by all this technical stuff. This bill, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. We can hear you, or take your time,
Okay.
I know what it's like to be discombobulated.
Yeah, what I want to know is about, is this seeking an exception or an exemption or any kind of mitigation of the requirements of the stormwater management rules that we have in the state?
Yes, I believe it's an exception to the land if it's being used agriculturally, and that means to use as crops, livestock, so on and so forth.
So how would you protect the waterways around there from runoff if you have this exception?
I can't, so I didn't anticipate that question either, so I would please ask.
All right, we'll figure it out later. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. There appear to be no further questions on this bill, so that ends the public hearing on House Bill 1415. Let's proceed to House Bill 1428. Again, Mr. Lanier.
House Bill 1428 looks to authorize Cole counties to post notices of bill hearings on the website ordinarily used by the county commissioners as an alternative to posting it in the newspaper. And The commissioner support letters and delegates voting lists have been submitted for the record, and we're requesting a favorable report.
Okay, very good. Testifying in favor of the bill, Dominic Butchko. Dominic, you in the house?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, thank you very much for having me here today. Mako is very enthusiastic and in support of this bill, House Bill 1428. Fantastic bill. So basically, transparency laws were written over a century ago, and yet our technology has advanced far more than the law has. This bill basically allows code counties to message and reach people where they are today. Newspapers are not as widely in circulation as they were previously. The modern citizen is just much more likely to search the web for updates on their local government than they are to find a physical copy of a newspaper and look at what their representatives are currently contemplating. This bill will bring local government communications closer and into the 21st century, and it allows counties, like I said before, to meet people where they are and avoid unnecessary expenses. Accordingly, Mako urges a favorable report on this bill. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Is Reuben Collins with us? He was signed up previously. Are you in the house, Reuben? Ben, do we have Reuben Collins?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Well, all right. In that case, let's proceed to, we have a number of questions. The first question goes to Delegate Foley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My question, either for the gentleman presenting the bill, or Mr. Lanier, or Mr. Butchko. So my question is this: how would I know, without checking the website every day, that there was something posted there? I mean, how would I know? Like, how would I get notification that there's something new there?
Well, plenty of counties put out different newsletters, and if they're going to put it on their website, there is a 99% chance they're also going to put it on their social media. So, and I think not all, but almost all counties also do have social media as well. So, I mean, there's plenty of ways that you can get notifications like that.
Okay, so, okay. Thank you.
Delegate Healy.
Yes, thank you very much. My question is about, to Mr. Butchko. There's nothing right now that prevents you from putting notices on the website or for putting them out electronically on social media or however other electronic ways that now, is there? I mean, you're suggesting that this is an alternative to the newspaper, but it seems like you can do both, right?
Yeah, so currently right now, there is nothing preventing you from putting it online whatsoever. It's just you are required to put it in your local newspaper. And what we're starting to see is, and actually not starting to see, this is actually going on for a while now, newspapers are not in wide circulation in every part of the county. And in some counties, there's not a newspaper of wide circulation, but the law still requires you to post updates in the newspaper. So we have a requirement that we can't always fulfill.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next question goes to Delegate Terraza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And maybe we don't have the right people here to ask, but I don't know if Mr. Butchko knows, but does Charles County put the same notices on their website?
I'm not entirely, I can't answer that right now, but I will be surprised if they don't. I would be surprised if a county has a website and they're not putting this on there. I would be surprised by that.
Okay, and I guess part of my question would be is if they would object, but I guess we still don't have the right people there for that piece. So a requirement to do that. We had a similar bill in Howard County delegation, but it was for liquor licenses, and we added that requirement that it be on the web. And it seems to me like that had, like, if that's where you're anticipating people actually finding out, it should be part of the requirement. So it'd be interesting to hear what you find out, but thank you.
I have a question for Mr. Lanier or Mr. Butchko. What is there a newspaper that is widely read a daily newspaper or a weekly newspaper that's widely read in Charles County? Do we know?
Mr. Lanier, do you know that one?
Not exclusively, I don't believe, no, not in Charles County specifically.
Do most people in
the
Charles
Southern Maryland Chronicle would probably be the most circulated.
Is that daily or is it weekly? I'm just curious.
I'm not aware of that fact.
Okay, and do people read the Washington Post? Is that the daily national newspaper they typically read down there, if they read one?
I'm not necessarily sure of that either, but I just know that they're trying to repeal the requirement to have it posted in the newspaper, to have it instead be required to be posted on the website.
I think Delegate Clark has either a question or an answer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I got an answer.
Okay.
Years ago, each county had individual papers. With the consolidation, it's just one newspaper that is printed for all 3 counties and circulated, is not as widely circulated in every county as it used to be. So,
okay.
You know, I haven't read a paper since they changed. So, you know.
I think you've read probably newspapers of some sort, though. You've seen.
Oh, well, I'll read the Washington Post.
Okay.
And
all right.
I will tell you one thing. The notices in the Washington Post
are
right after the last page of the sports page in the back, because I read the Washington Post sports page. That's all.
Okay. I'm disappointed that you don't read the comics. Okay. Well, that ends the public hearing for
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
We do have Rebecca Snyder signed up unfavorable to present.
Oh, really? Did I? I'm sorry. Rebecca, I'm sorry.
Well, that's all right. Although, Chair Barbie, I'm sad you think that I would not come to this hearing because it's a critical issue around the public's right to know. So for the record, my name is Rebecca Snyder. I'm the executive director of the Maryland, Delaware, DC Press Association. And we've heard a lot about this supposed fabulous bill. What this bill really does is says that a county, and this is a statewide bill, so although it's coming from the Charles County delegation, make no mistake, it covers every county and jurisdiction in the state. Really what it's saying when you're looking at how notices are delivered, that a government website that does not have the 64% market saturation that the Charles County Maryland Independent has in Charles County and could be pushed through social media, which is prey to all the algorithms of the large tech giants. I don't know about you, but I don't see even my friends on Facebook. I think you're leaving a huge gap in terms of making sure that taxpayers know what is happening in their government. So right now, best practices for public notice stress verification, audience, independence. This bill fails on all of those pieces. You want to reach a broad cross-section of the public. Newspapers do, yes, they publish in print, but they also publish online. And I would really look, when you think about where you're getting your news, and if you say, oh, I get it on the internet, primarily you're getting it from a newspaper that's posted online. All of our members do post their public notices online. We aggregate them in our statewide website. This is a transparent, independent process that ensures that the public knows what's happening with their government, and we urge an unfavorable report.
Okay, any questions? Delegate Clark, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a
Delegate
question.
Clark. Go ahead. Yeah.
Just a question for Ms. Snyder. Ms. Snyder, you said that this was a bill that would affect the whole state. The description of the bill says code counties. Charles County is a Southern Maryland code county, which in that region, they're the only one that is a code county. Calvert and St. Mary's are both commissioner counties. So each individual areas of the state with code counties have different regulations that they have to follow as a code county. So are you saying that this bill says that it would go in effect for all the specific regional code counties, the regions, as opposed to just individual ones?
Well, I read it as it would affect the code counties, as you say. It's not just Charles County. And even if it were just Charles County, it's still a bad idea because Charles County pays a minor fraction of their total budget on public notices. And the way they're doing it now reaches 64% of the population in Charles County. I would be surprised if the government website is hitting those numbers. And as Delegate Foley pointed out, you don't know what you don't know. You would have to be dogging the website or hope that you'd see it on Twitter or Facebook or wherever to even hope to understand what new laws are coming into effect.
Well, thank you very much for your answer.
Okay, Delegate Terraza has her hand up.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, although now I don't know who the question's for, because I guess my question is, does this apply to all code counties? And maybe we can just find that out from staff at some point. Whether
Right.
it applies to just Southern Maryland code counties and if that's only Charles County, but I would like to know the answer to that.
Well, actually, we have a representative from Mako here. Can you enlighten us?
Yeah, I believe this applies to all code counties. This is not a Charles County specific bill. So it doesn't apply to all counties, just code. So I think, I'm not positive exactly how many, I think it's 5 or so, but that number could be wrong, but however many code counties there are.
Right. I'm receiving information from my legal staff that this isn't a local bill. It's actually, it applies to all code counties. So it really should be seen not as a local bill.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else, Jen? Because did that take care of your?
No, that was really the crux of what I was asking. Thank you.
Okay, well, in that case, I think that ends the public hearing on House Bill 1428. Thank you to everybody. Thank you, Mr. Lanier. Let's go to House Bill 646, Delegate Proctor. Delegate Proctor, welcome back to the committee. You have 4 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, I'm Delegate Susie Proctor, representing District 27A on behalf of House Bill 646. House Bill 646 is proposed legislation that requires the governor to make a yearly appropriation of $900,000 from the Cigarette Restitution Fund to the Tri-County Council for Southern Maryland to fund the Southern Maryland Agricultural Development Commission, known as SMADC. As many of you probably know, the Southern Maryland Agricultural Development Commission serves Anne Arundel, Calvert, Charles, Prince George's, and St. Mary's counties, providing a host of resources to the farming community. SMADC connects farmers with consumers, provides essential support, grants, and promotional assistance to help the Southern Maryland farming community grow and thrive. They also work to support farmland preservation efforts to ensure the rich agricultural history of Southern Maryland continues indefinitely. SMADC does great work throughout Southern Maryland. The yearly allocation provided by this legislation would provide SMADC a consistent and completely dependable funding source that would allow the organization to grow and multiply their efforts to promote agriculture in Southern Maryland. SMADC truly serves as the guardian for the future of agriculture in Southern Maryland, and this legislation would help to ensure that mission continues into perpetuity. With that, Mr. Chairman, I would ask you and the committee for a favorable report of this legislation, and I'd be happy to try to answer any questions.
Well, thank you very much, Delegate. Let's turn to the first witness who signed up in favor, Shelby Watson Hampton. Shelby, welcome to the committee. You have 2 minutes.
They are not here at the moment, I believe.
How about Colby Ferguson?
That we do have.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Colby Ferguson on behalf of Maryland Farm Bureau, and we come in support of House Bill 646. Great piece of legislation that really just stabilizes and solidifies a economic organization that has been instrumental in revitalizing Southern Maryland agriculture, and really in an area that has heavy development. As many know, this program has really put together the direct consumer agriculture that Southern Maryland is so well known for. It's really helped with putting those components together that set up the pumpkin patches and the corn mazes through the agritourism side, but then the farm stands and also addressing some of our state meat processing issues that we've had down in Southern Maryland. And so SMATIC has been very instrumental in putting that together. And I think putting this together to stabilize their funding is a very smart and effective way to move forward. And I would love to see programs like this in other parts of the state. So with that, we ask for a favorable report.
Okay, Chantal Brooks. Is Chantal with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay. You have 2 minutes. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Chantal Brooks. I'm a retired physician, but now a newly minted farmer. And I'm here in strong support of House Bill 646. In 2016, my family and I moved to Prince George's County and started a small beef cattle company called 804 Cattle Company. And we currently sell pasture-raised beef to the local community through an online website. We provide on-farm pickups and monthly deliveries. SMATIC, we have worked closely with SMATIC since we have moved here. As you know, SMATIC serves 2,011 farms in the 5-county Southern Maryland area, and we are one. 804 has been working with them, and they have been our go-to resource for marketing, helping us develop informative flyers and pamphlets for public distribution, as well as marketing of our farm through websites, articles, videos, and even a coffee table book. They've helped us meet and work with other farmers in the area. And finally, they've also provided valuable insights on state-funded assistance programs. In addition to their marketing of our farm, their grants have allowed us to improve our cattle handling facilities and purchase freezers, which we use to expand to meet the needs of Maryland residents during the meat shortages in the last 2 years of the COVID pandemic. Their mission to provide farmers with centralized information to grow their potential and for the consumers to access these same farms is one that they have fulfilled many times over. This organization is key to farming success in Southern Maryland, and we would very much appreciate it that it continue to be supported. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next,
Mr. Chairman, I was going to say Shelby Hampton did just join us.
Oh, Shelby, welcome to the committee. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Apologies, I am on my way to a medical appointment I could not reschedule, so I have to do this from my car, but I'll be quick. I'm director of the Southern Maryland Agricultural Development Commission, known as SMATIC, which is a division of the Tri-County Council for Southern Maryland. HB 0646 is asking for the permanent annual budget of $900,000 from the Cigarette Restitution Fund, known as the CRF, to be funded to the Tri-County Council of Southern Maryland for their SMATIC department. The CRF comes into the state from the cigarette company's master settlement agreement and is a continual non-lapsing fund designated only for use by the Maryland Health Department and by SMATIC. These funds are not available for any other use, and they involve no tax dollars. SMATIC receives a small portion of this funding, which is due to sunset in 2025. However, there is no sunset for the much larger portion of the Health Department funding. SMATIC was established by statute through the Master Settlement Agreement via the CRF to help farmers in Southern Maryland transition from tobacco to other farming enterprises. These new enterprises are vital, and with assistance from SMATIC, they help our farms diversify, be profitable, and preserve farmland, as well as provide opportunities for new young farmers and help meet consumer demand for local agricultural products. SMATIC has a large impact. We serve over 2,000 farms on over 200,000 acres in the 5-county Southern Maryland area, and we run 4 statewide programs as well. Currently, we're working with St. Mary's County to build a $4.7 million regional agricultural center that will transform the region's farming economy and create 17 local jobs. SMATIC also runs the statewide Maryland Market Money Program, which serves 550 local farmers, 46 farmers markets, and provides over $449,000 worth of fresh food to low-income families. SMATIC is also a good investment for the state. In FY22, with only $900,000 in operating funds, SMATIC brought an additional $1.3 million into Maryland via non-state grants. These grants are project-specific, though, and do not provide much in funding for overall department support, which is why permanent department funding is needed. SMATIC's work is vital to our region and has become valued statewide. We humbly request that you vote to pass this bill. By securing these funds, you will ensure that SMATIC continues its vital work for the farming community in Southern Maryland and across the state. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next, let's turn to Kevin Addix. Kevin, I saw you out there.
I'm here. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I just couldn't find the unmute button. Kevin Addix with Grow and Fortify, representing value-added agriculture in the state. That includes distilleries, wineries, breweries, creameries, hemp producers, and other really fun, interesting, innovative, and valuable products and crops in the state. The reason I'm here talking about this bill is to ask you to support SMATIC in a continuing fashion, because this organization, while it is a nonprofit, it acts like a nonprofit, it does nonprofit-y things. It actually, in the ag space, is unusual in that they take great input from the community. They develop programs directed at supporting the community and members of the agricultural community. And they find the money for it through other grants, and they execute. And they execute in a way that creates operations and facilities and programs that directly benefit agricultural producers in the state. So really, really valuable program. I will just say, in terms of the Maryland wine industry, they were one of the first to realize that long-term crops like grapes could be the same value, if not better, for farmers who grew tobacco, and they were a leader in getting many, many acres of grapes in the ground. So with that, I urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, let's turn to Lucille Walker with the Southern Maryland Heritage Area. Lucille, welcome to the committee. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and to the committee. I am the Executive Director of the Southern Maryland Heritage Area. We're also known as Destination Southern Maryland, and we're one of 13 heritage areas in the state. I am also the Vice Chair of SMATIC, full disclosure, and it is with great pleasure that I speak with you today. I am testifying on behalf of 646, solidifying the funding for SMATIC, because it is a vital resource, as others have just mentioned, for the region and also for the state. Agriculture is a primary part of the heritage of Southern Maryland. It's also a part of the heritage of Maryland as a whole. SMATIC has had a profound impact on sustaining, growing the agricultural community and programs throughout our region. They have provided models that can be adopted statewide, innovations that can be adopted nationwide, and even more, provide hope and opportunity to farmers when they need it the most. SMATIC took on the statewide Maryland Market Fund when it needed a home. And through this initiative, they provided almost $500,000 to families in need. I am here in strong support of this bill, and I urge a favorable report. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I believe there is no one else signed up to testify for or against. One person is signed up against, but they're not testifying. So it looks like we have some questions. So I will, the first question goes to Delegate Foley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm a little bit familiar with the Cigarette Restitution Fund. It's a really great program. And it sounds like SMATIC is a really good program as well. So, congratulations. So don't take my question any other way than just I'm looking for information. So reading the fiscal note, it says that 30% of the CFR, CFR is divided between health and farmers, right? That's what it does. So it says that at least 30% of the annual appropriations must be used for Medicaid in the CFR. And so my question is that impacted? Does that percentage get impacted by this $900,000 going now to SMATIC?
I don't know. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Shelby, Director of SMATIC. So the money that comes into the state is in the multiple millions of dollars every year, and it is continual in perpetuity, non-lapsing. Out of those millions and millions, the health department gets all of that except for the 900,000 that SMATIC currently gets. So we get this money already. It's just set to stop. So it shouldn't affect anything that is currently happening if we keep just our regular allotment coming in.
Okay,
and
great.
all of the Medicaid and everything else with tobacco cessation and health is the health department. SMATIC only works with the farming portion.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Delegate Clark.
Thank you, Ms. Shea. Just one quick thing, and Shelby, thanks for doing a great job with SMATIC. I really appreciate it. One quick question that just popped into my mind when Kevin Addix was listing all the different types of crops and stuff. Is SMATIC envisioning any entry into marijuana growing? I know we're getting our first growing facility in St. Mary's County, and I was just wondering if SMATIC, if there was any plans that SMATIC would be part of, be involved in that at all.
So, as a quasi-governmental nonprofit, so we are the 5 counties that sit under the Tri-County Council. We would have to follow the Tri-County Council's directive and their executive board and chair and vice chair on that. However, SMATIC doesn't actually actively farm anything. We assist the farmers with marketing and promotion and regulation and working with the health departments and the fire marshal and the other organizations that they have to go through to start their businesses. So maybe potentially in the future that is something that could come up, but right now, while we're involved in everything A to Z agriculture in Southern Maryland, from aquaculture to equine to livestock to agritourism, marijuana has not yet entered the scene for us.
So would you say that's probably an issue that the Tri-County Council needs to put into debate and decide what they're going to do with?
I think the great minds that run the Tri-County Council will definitely tell me as an employee what I should do for them.
Well, thank you. I used to be the chair of Tri-County Council, so I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions for the sponsor or any of the witnesses? Seeing none, thank you very much. That ends the public hearing on House Bill 646. Let's turn to House Bill 728, the Carroll County Delegation. Delegate Rose presenting. Delegate April. Delegate Rose.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I got a text from her a couple minutes ago, and she said she had like 6 more bills to vote on. If she wasn't on, could you move her down the line a couple of bills?
Sure. We'll skip over Carroll County. They have 2 bills. We'll go to House Bill 811.
Carroll County's here. Sorry.
Oh, Delegate. Okay.
I apologize. I got
Don't apologize. You're here. Don't apologize. You're here. House Bill 728.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate it. And good afternoon. For the record, Delegate April Rose here just to present House Bill 728. This is a local delegation bill. This bill is for prospective employees and volunteers to expand the criminal records check. This bill was requested by our county commissioners. At this time, current Carroll County law does not require all people who work for the county to have background checks. As federal law changes, it has become necessary to amend who gets a background check. This will eliminate having to make changes every time a new background check occurs at the state or local level. The intent of the bill is to ensure that people working with our youth do not have anything in their background that would raise concerns for the young people's safety. This bill resulted from a very terrible incident in our county where a youth coach who was accused of sexual misconduct with a minor who had similar incident in Pennsylvania that would have appeared on a full background check, and this would have prevented him to harm our local children. It is our hope that we will move forward with a better process to protect the children in our county. The bill passed with our full delegation vote with one amendment that matches it to the Senate version, and we had just 1 member absent. Thank you for your time, and I hope for a favorable report.
Okay, thank you, Delegate. Let's turn to Michael Fowler with the Board of the Carroll County Commissioners. Mr. Fowler, are you with us? And if you are, welcome to the committee, and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. Just a little bit more detail on the bill. I thank Delegate Rose for explaining it. Currently, the county has a limited ability to conduct these background checks. We'd like to expand it. The bill takes its language directly from existing law. There are 10 other counties that have the authority to do this for prospective employees. 6 of those counties have the authority to do it for volunteers as well. So we're not asking for anything that doesn't currently exist in law. And for those reasons, we'd appreciate a favorable report on the bill. Thank you.
Okay, we have, let me just first check that there aren't. Yeah, that's it. Delegate Healy has a question.
Yes, I just wanted to be clear. I just want to make sure I understand the bill. Is this only for people who work with young people, with youth or minors? Or is this for every county employee?
So I would defer to Mike Fowler on that, but I believe it was to be with those who work with youth. That was where the incident occurred, but I will defer to Mike if he has an answer.
Yes, Delegate Healy, it's both. It's prospective employees and volunteers.
Any who work only with youth, or for like anybody who like collects the trash or, sweep, shovel snow or whatever?
Yes, it's not prescriptive in that way. It's simply prescriptive employees and volunteers for the county.
And does the county have a policy about what they would do with this information? Would they not hire somebody who had a criminal background? For instance, we try to help people get readjusted to life after incarceration. And if they can get a job doing certain kinds of jobs in local government, would they be stopped from ever getting that if you did this kind of check?
I think it's really dependent on the situation. So the county's current authority to do this is primarily people who issue permits, who handle money, who do inspections. So this would give us the tools, for example, to expand to the landfill for someone that doesn't necessarily handle money, but perhaps lets trash trucks in order to calculate tipping fees. So that's one example.
Okay, so it's more than just people who work with young people.
It is, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to understand. Thank you for information.
Okay, any further questions for the sponsor or Mr. Fowler? Seeing none, that ends the public hearing on House Bill 728. Let's go to House Bill 1182, also Carroll County. Delegate Rose.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. And for the record, Delegate April Rose from Carroll County, District 5. This bill, House Bill 1182, deals with our Carroll County commissioners, and it deals with their compensation and benefits package. This bill will make adjustments to the compensation for our future Carroll County commissioners in the following areas. It will raise the annual salary from $45,000 per year to $50,000. It replaces the allowance now provided to the commissioners and instead entitles them to reimbursements incurred during their official duties. And it prohibits future Carroll County Board of Commissioners from offering group insurance pension benefits that are different from the similar benefits that are offered to our full-time county employees. The bill applies prospectively, and provisions related to salary or compensation will be taken at the beginning of the next term of office. This local delegation bill passed with a majority, 2 abstentions, and 1 was absent. I request a favorable report on our local Carroll County bill. Thank you.
Okay, no one else has signed up to testify. Are there any questions for Delegate Rose? Hold on, let me just double check. I don't see any. So Delegate Rose, you're free to go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Have a great afternoon.
You too. Have a great weekend. Okay, next let's turn to House Bill 811, the Montgomery County Delegation, presenting Delegate Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, I'm Delegate Vaughn Stewart. This is House Bill 811, a Montgomery County Delegation Bill. I'm pinch hitting for Delegate Lutke, who sends his deep regrets that he's not able to visit with us this afternoon. I did warn him, Mr. Chairman, that having me present the bill would dramatically reduce the likelihood that this committee would pass it, but he went ahead nonetheless.
You lost my vote already.
Yeah, no, exactly. I tried to warn him. So HB 811 authorizes the placement and use of speed cameras on Maryland 200, the intercounty connector. This bill passed out of the Montgomery County House delegation nearly unanimously with one vote in opposition. It only passed because several amendments were added to the bill that were intended to conform the bill to our committee's standards for speed cameras. And in actuality, as you'll hear, the amended bill actually goes far beyond what we normally require as a committee. So the bill as amended, number one, limits the number of cameras that can be placed on the ICC at two cameras. Number two, it requires the placement of cameras only in areas where MDTA determines that there has been a high number of accidents. Number three, it requires that any surplus revenue from the cameras be used to fund traffic, bicycle, and pedestrian safety projects on or near the ICC. Number four, it implements the Wyville Amendment by requiring the use of real-time speed monitoring. Number five, it requires MDTA to study the safety impact of the cameras and report its findings to our committee and to JPR by January 1, 2027. And relatedly, it establishes a 5-year sunset for the bill. The amended bill, of course, it does have a number of caveats. I think but it's still an extremely important priority for those of us who live or regularly drive in the ICC, because if I live, less than a mile off of the ICC. If you regularly take this, especially outside of rush hour, you quickly realize that, especially since the pandemic, the ICC has essentially become a racetrack. It's basically like Talladega North, where folks are flagrantly and intentionally violating the 60-mile speed limit, and it's frankly unsafe. It's loud, certainly, but it's unsafe. There have been a number of times where either motorcycles or otherwise just negligent motorists have sped past me while I was even going, 5 or 10 miles over the 60-mile-per-hour speed limit. And so it's not safe. I think that this is a toll road where there's already cameras there to capture people's easy pass. And so I think that, the expectation of privacy on a road like this is probably a little bit less because folks are already, used to being monitored with their easy pass. And I think that having these two speed cameras is a small step towards providing some degree of safety and sanity on this racetrack of a road. And with that, I urge the favorable report.
Let the record show that Delegate Stewart has admitted in open public to violating the speed laws of the state of Maryland, no doubt in his great desire to emulate the great Barry Ciliberti.
Barry is indeed my mentor, and I'm just trying to appeal to the choir here. I sometimes you have to admit your flaws in order to make sure that your audience respects you and understands you.
Whenever I'm driving, I always consider Barry to be my spirit animal. Delegate Lehman has the first question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate Stewart, I only heard at the very end where you mentioned, I believe you said 2 cameras. Did I hear that correctly?
Correct. A maximum of 2 cameras.
Okay, and whereabouts does the bill describe where those would be specifically?
There are not locations prescribed in the bill. Instead, it directs MDTA. And by the way, the bill is only enabling legislation. So if MDTA decided not to actually ever put cameras up, they wouldn't go up. But MDTA has to make the determination that if a speed camera is to go up, 1 or 2 or 0, any speed camera has to be placed in an area with a high number of accidents. And so that's the only prescription in the bill.
Hey, gang, I forgot to turn to the favorable witnesses. Mary, if you can put a pin in that, let me go through all of them and then go to the first.
I did have one other important question for Delegate Stewart, because I think sometimes maybe our friends in Montgomery forget that the intercounty connector is also in Prince George's. It's right next to my house as well. And so I would just, my question is, would the delegation be open possibly just to an amendment that includes some feedback from Prince George's on, I think there was some reporting or look back provision or something where I think Prince George's should at least be considered.
Yeah, thank you, Delegate Lehman. This actually, you'll be heartened to know, this actually is an issue that did come up during our delegation meeting as to the extent to which Prince George's should be involved with this. We actually debated it for 10 or 15 minutes about to the degree to which we should involve y'all. As someone I'm not actually the bill sponsor, so I don't necessarily want to bind the bill sponsor here, but I think certainly the Montgomery County delegation generally would be open to that sort of discussion.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, let me correct my mistake and go to John Becker, who's a constituent of mine, who's testifying in favor of the bill. John, welcome to the committee. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chairman Barbe. Ladies and gentlemen, again, John Becker. I live in downtown Rockville, along with Delegate Gilchrist at the beautiful Americana Center condominium. And although I don't live adjacent to the ICC, I do use it and have used and continue to use it both morning rush hour, during the day, the afternoon rush hour, and I've used it on the weekends and evenings. And I can testify as far as a personal driving experience of the speeding and things like that. I think for Montgomery County delegation to propose and support this bill is a great start. I think this information that will be obtained from these 2 cameras, even though there should be more, I think this is a great start, and that data will be very important for all of us going down the road. And with that, I support this. I urge you all to support this. And Chairman Barber, thank you for letting me provide my comments.
No, of course. Next, John Sang. John, welcome to the committee. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Barbe. I represent the Maryland Coalition for Highway Safety. In particular, I wanted to thank Senator Bennett Kramer and his colleagues in Montgomery County delegation, especially, as Mr. Stewart mentioned, Delegate Ludke, as well as Mr. Stewart, not only for his role today, but his sustained leadership over quite some time for roadway safety in Maryland. The Olney community where I live is one of the larger community footprints along the ICC in Montgomery County. The Greater Olney Civic Association has made it clear that the IC speeds are a real threat, which is why they overwhelmingly approved their resolution to support the original bill in the Montgomery County delegation. The Easy Pass Maryland Transportation Authority data indicate average vehicle speeds of 67 miles an hour in a 60-mile-an-hour zone, more than 10% above the posted speed limit. And as Delegate Stewart shared earlier with his anecdote, significantly higher speeds a good deal of the time. Last week, I heard sirens on the road, so I drove out to see what's going on. A 2-vehicle crash with a pickup truck flipped around 180 degrees. Fire and rescue police on the scene. Why are drivers crashing on this fairly straight road? It's because of excessive speed. Why put rescue and law enforcement personnel in harm's way to enforce traffic safety and respond to crashes? We know that speed cameras work. After too many crashes and death, they're now working on Route 210 in Prince George's County, the same for I-83 in Baltimore. But we don't need to wait for higher average speeds and death counts on the ICC to justify 2 speed cameras. Finally, much of the ICC originates from out of state, so we need to send drivers from Texas to Canada, plus Marylanders, the message: when you get to Maryland and you get to the ICC, slow down, we care about lives here. So to you, Mr. Barbe, and your colleagues on the committee, please submit a favorable report for HB 811. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And next we'll hear from Christine Sang. Christine?
She just needs to unmute her mic.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Barbe and committee. Thank you for having me with you today. I live along Maryland 200, the Inter-County Connector. We've been residents for 23 years, and the ICC has been here for just almost 10 years. It is a raceway, just as Delegate Stewart said, it is a raceway. I can observe the ICC from the main floor in our house. Vision is everything, ears are everything. I can watch motorists and motorcycles speed past the other passenger cars and or trucks on the ICC. You can see their speed, you can hear their speed. It's terrifying. It is absolutely terrifying. Whether you're inside or outside, it is terrifying. We have toddler grandchildren who actually cover their ears when they're inside the house with the windows closed because it's a frightening sound. Additionally, I would say that favorable action for HB 811 is absolutely needed. And I would ask for your support with that. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Also signed up against is Jonathan Miller, but he doesn't want to testify. So a number of people had their hands up for questions, and I did interrupt Delegate Lehman. Do you want to ask a question, Mary, or are you good? Well, I'm going to assume
I'm fine. Yeah, I finished, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Delegate Holmes has the next question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just kind of wanted to follow up on Delegate Lehman's question in reference to Prince George's County, because this is an ICC, inter-county connector. You did mention that the Montgomery County delegation discussed Prince George's County. Am I to assume, based upon this legislation, that the cameras will be placed someplace only in Montgomery County, or what kind of assumptions should I be making with this legislation?
Yes, Delegate Holmes, thank you for the question. My recollection, and again, it's not my bill, so I don't want to bind anyone, but my recollection of the resolution of the discussion we had in delegation was that the expectation is that the 2 cameras would be placed on the Montgomery County side of the ICC, which my understanding is that it's about 95% of the ICC is within Montgomery County.
Okay. And just to follow up, Mr. Chair, I left Cleveland, Ohio, and went to college in Tuskegee, Alabama, and I learned a couple of things down there. And in the admission of Delegate Stewart of his going past the speed limit, I would say to you in the vernacular of Alabama, bless your heart.
Thank you, Delegate Holmes. I have to admit, Barry is just rubbing off on me in all the wrong ways. Now he has a question.
Yes, that's right. Delegate Siliberti, unmute yourself so you can answer your question or ask your question. Barry, you need to unmute.
I'm done. Yes, thank you. First of all, I should know this as many times as I travel the ICC, but does anybody know how long the ICC is, lengthwise, miles-wise?
That's a great question. For some reason, the number 17 immediately comes to mind for me, but so it's something around that, but don't quote me on that precisely. One of my witnesses may know exactly, but I would say somewhere in the high teens would be my guess.
Or just as a footnote, if you happen to be traveling the ICC and you may be doing 75, close to 80, you may look in the rearview mirror and you'll see a 4-wheeled wreck driven by Wyval that will be overtaking you. So you have to be very careful.
Yeah, I'm sure that's right. And I don't want to make too light of the situation, because I mean, as Christine said, I mean, beyond the times that I've feared for my life, and I oftentimes travel with my toddler in the back seat, and the sounds when you're on the road are terrifying, but they're terrifying even living nearby. I mean, it's basically this kind of haunted lullaby that everyone within a few mile radius of the ICC just has to endure as part of living nearby. It's just an absolute ever-present sound.
So am I to understand that the 20-foot walls don't cushion the sound, or?
Well, yeah, it's a great question. There are these sound barriers in different parts of the ICC, but my understanding is that they went in under the assumption that the ICC would be 55 miles per hour. It was then raised to 60 miles per hour. And then, of course, as we've heard, people regularly go 75 or 80, and the walls were just never designed for those sorts of speeds.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
But I appreciate the warning about Delegate Wyval. I'll certainly keep my eyes peeled on the rearview mirror.
Indeed.
Well, I think Delegate Wyval can draw some comfort in the fact that now he has entered the vernacular of the committee when you refer to the speed camera reporting function as the Wyval amendment. So
and just don't ever let Delegate Siliberti ride as a passenger in your vehicle, because he is constantly nagging you.
I see. Okay, Delegate Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Delegate Stewart, did you read the information letter from MDOT on the about expending the funds? It would violate the trust agreement, et cetera. Do your amendments address that? I guess that's my question.
So it's a great question. I have to admit, I'm usually a voracious reader of the entire bill file of a bill. But in this case, since it's not my bill and I only learned I was going to give the testimony a few minutes ago, I actually have not read the letter. I'm happy to do so, but I trust the judgment of the subcommittee to work out any remaining issues if the amendments don't resolve them. And also, by the way, Patrick Tracy just let me know 18.8 miles long. So I was not too far off.
You are not.
Right. Well, anyhow, there's reference in the information letter from MDOT that should MDTA funds be expended on the installation of these cameras, it would be in violation of the existing trust agreement. So I'm just wondering if you noticed that. But we'll take it up in subcommittee. You've been doing a pretty good job so far on presenting it. So thank you very much.
I appreciate that very much, Delegate Weibel, and I'll make sure Delegate Lutke knows you said that.
Okay. Delegate Parrott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, it's interesting. Delegate Stewart, you just mentioned how the speed limit was increased when they opened it from 55 to 60. You might know that the reason it was increased was because Delegate Aruna Miller, who's now running for Lieutenant Governor, and I introduced a bill that said it should be 70 miles an hour. And the day of the hearing, the MDTA changed the speed limit to 60 to take our, the speed out of our bill. I guess before I could support this, really that it should be 70 miles an hour. Engineering studies support that. Would that be an amendment that you would agree to? If we're going to have cameras, we should have a reasonable speed limit on the road.
I wouldn't agree.
Please don't make me have to sit through another Montgomery County House delegation meeting.
I know. Yeah. First of all, I don't really want to entertain the hypotheticals because, again, it's not my bill. So I don't really feel like I can even make any commitments. I would just say that I disagree with the idea that 70 is safe. I would say, however, that if we could guarantee that every single driver would go 70, then the road would be a lot safer than the status quo. But the reality is that folks go higher than the speed limit, no matter how high you ramp it up. And I think if we moved it to 70, we'd have a lot more people going 85, and we already have way too many of those as it is.
Yeah, I hear you saying studies show that people tend to go what they're comfortable with, not what the speed limit is. And so they'll continue to go what's comfortable. And actually, if you raise the speed limits to a reasonable amount, oftentimes people drop their speeds because they feel that it's actually a reasonable speed limit. However, I do hear what you're saying, and I just wanted to point that out, that Delegate Aruna Miller and I did put in that bill, and we are thankful that it's 60. I think it should be higher. And I think to enforce a very low speed limit with cameras is kind of overkill. And it seems like another problem there may be that some of these speed barriers have not been designed effectively, and that might be another avenue to take too, to go to
you mean sound barriers?
To fix those speed barriers.
Yeah. Thank you, Delegate Parrott. And I would just, the only thing I would add briefly is that I am familiar with those studies that people basically drive however fast it feels like it's safe to do rather than what the posted speed limit is. And I think that really is even more reason that we need to try to keep folks at bay with these cameras, because the ICC feels like a road, at least to me, that you can go really fast on. It's straight, it's wide, there are huge shoulders, and I think clearly a lot of motorists feel the same way too, which is why folks are going so fast. But I also want to make the point that when we're talking about these folks that are speeding on this road, we're not talking about the run-of-the-mill driver like Delegate Siliberti that's going slightly over 65 or 70 miles per hour. We're talking about folks who have come up in our committee before that are doing this as a game, they're doing this as a hobby, they're doing this for recreation. And by this, I mean exceeding the speed limit by 20 or 30 miles per hour, at least. So yeah.
That road was designed for 70, but
okay, asked and answered. Delegate Healy. And you're muted.
Yes, okay, thank you. I wanted to I was here when we passed the original speed camera bills, and it's my memory, if it's correct, is that having the speed to get a camera, you have to have the speeds at what the road was designed for. I think that we had a lot of debate about this in the committee back then, and I think that was in the bill, that in order to get a speed camera, you had to have reasonable speed limits. And so we'll definitely look at that in subcommittee. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think that it's 12 miles per hour over, I think is the usual standard for these cameras. So I think here, you'd get a ticket if you were going 72 or 73. But yeah, thank you.
Okay, there appear to be no further questions, so that will conclude the public hearing on House Bill 811. Let's proceed to House Bill 913, the Calvert County Delegation, and I believe Jerry is going to be presenting the bill to us.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate Jerry Clark, presenting to you HB 913, Calvert County Procurement, Local Preference. HB 913 is enabling legislation which allows Calvert County to enact an ordinance that gives Calvert County businesses preference to contracts in which they have submitted a responsible bid or offered that is greater than the lowest bid by a business from outside the county. The ordinance allows for a percentage preference for Calvert County businesses. Testifying for Calvert County for this bill today will be Amy Larson, Director of Technology Services, and Amanda Odell, our Procurement Officer. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to turn it over to them to.
Yeah, actually signed up is Sharon Strand and Amanda Odell. So let me call Sharon first. Sharon, are you with us? And if you are, you have 2 minutes. Welcome to the committee. Is Sharon Strand with us?
I
am here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes,
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, committee members. I'm Sharon Strand. I'm the Deputy Director of Finance and Budget for Calvert County Government, and I'm here to express the Board of County Commissioners' support for this bill. I asked for a favorable report on House Bill 913, and I'm here to answer any questions along with Amanda Odell that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Amanda Odell with us, and do you wish to give us testimony?
I am. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, fellow committee members. I'm the Procurement Division Chief for Calvert County Government. I am also here to support the Board of County Commissioners' request for this bill and answer any questions at this time.
Okay, very good then. Questions? Delegate Weigel has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate, was there a local hearing held on this proposal?
Yes, sir, there was. And it was held with the delegation and the Board of County Commissioners back in December.
And no opposition?
No, sir.
When I served on the local Board of County Commissioners, we did this on one bid, one time, and we filled the room with contractors asking us to never do it again, because usually you'll see there's retaliation then from other counties or other jurisdictions doing the same that you're doing.
Yeah, well, we didn't experience that at the public hearing. And this is something that the Board of County Commissioners has been debating and working on since back in the 2010, 2011 thing. Actually, it was brought up in 2003 by yours truly. And at that time, we just didn't work on it because we didn't have that many large contracts. And now the county has started to some expansion on different renewal buildings and stuff like that. So
okay, thank you.
That's the purpose.
Any further questions for the delegate or his witnesses? No one has signed up in opposition. Okay, that ends the public hearing on House Bill 913. Let's proceed to House Bill 914. Delegate Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate Jerry Clark, presenting to you HB 914, Calvert County Procurement Award of Multi-Year Contracts. HB 914 is a local Calvert County bill which will permit multiple year contracts. Currently, Calvert County contracts are limited to single year contracts that may be renewed up to 4 times, with the exception of banking and investment services, retirement and pension management, health insurance, and software, which may be renewed for up to 19 one-year contracts. as there are times when multi-year contracts would benefit the county and allow for easier negotiations with industry standard length contracts, Calvert County requests to ability to award multi-year contracts which do not exceed 5 years with the option to renew for not more than one additional term or not more than 3 additional terms for a total of 20 for banking and investment services, retirement and pension management, health insurance, information technology, software, internet service, cellular phones, hotspots, and similar items like that. Also, with this bill today, we do have, I believe that the names I have is Amanda Odell, the procurement officer, and Sharon Strand, the director of finance and budget.
No, in this case, it's Amy Lawson and Amanda Odell. So
well, somebody they got them mixed up. I'm not going to tell you the delegate's office this came out of, but you can guess.
Okay, Amy Lawson, are you with us? And if you are,
I am.
Okay, welcome to the committee. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Amy Lawson. I am the Chief Information Officer and Director of Technology Services for Calvert County. And I am here in support of the Calvert County Commissioner's support for this bill and hope that you will find a favorable response.
Okay.
And I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay, and Amanda Odell is here also. And Ms. Odell, do you want to testify or just answer questions?
I'm here in support of this bill just to answer questions if asked.
Very good. First question goes to Delegate Terraza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is Calvert County a code county? I mean, a commissioner county?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And that appears to be it. If there are no further questions, Jerry, you are now officially off the hook, and that ends public hearing for 9/14. We'll go to House Bill 1391, Delegate Frazier Hidalgo. DFH.
It appears he's not in his chair at the moment.
Aha. Okay, so let's go to Delegate Walker then with House Bill 1433. Is Skywalker with us?
Yes, Q-Ma.
That's Chairman Q-Ma.
Chairman Q-Ma, Barve. First of all, can I start off by saying I want to give a round of applause to the women on this committee. Strong testimony from Delegate Healy as well as Delegate Learman. Really moving. So ladies, you all did a good job. I just want to tell you all that. I was proud to serve with you all.
Yep.
Also want to give a little bit of good news. I know Delegate Amfrey's on this committee and you all may not know it, but I want to thank you all as well because finally, Q-Mar, going back to when you were on the committee, financial literacy passed Ways and Means.
What? Really?
Yes. So.
Awesome! Oh my God!
So many of you all for your support on that. Couldn't do it all without you.
In honor of that, Jay, I'm going to ignore Roman numerals.
Okay, explain that one to me one day. But
no, remember, I always used to complain that they wouldn't teach us financial literacy, but they would teach us Roman numerals.
Yeah, that's right. But I never agree with you really on that one because I'm a football player in the Super Bowl.
Oh, super right. Okay. All right.
But that being said, it's Friday. It's getting late. House Bill 1433 for the record, Delegate Jay Walker. House is a bill you all seen before you, but we changed it up from a year ago. Thank this committee as well for your support in the bill. And during the interim, what we've done is gone out and gotten public support. So what this bill does is it designates Maryland Route 210 as Piscataway Highway. It removes the discriminatory name of Indian Head Highway from Maryland Route 210 and renames it Piscataway Highway to honor and remember the ancestral lands of the Scatterway Tribe. The term Indian Head was used at a time when it was legal to kill Native Americans and take their body parts and sell them. And when it comes from a time when Native Americans were in retreat, but I thought it was a good idea to take a negative connotation word and make it a positive connotation word by honoring them with the name Piscataway Highway. The Piscataway Tribe ruled southern Maryland. The Piscataway Tribe is Maryland's first indigenous tribe. There are over 5,000 living members of the Piscataway Tribe in Maryland now. So in conclusion, this bill right here will be a great way to honor the Piscataway Tribe, to take a negative, turn into a positive. During the interim, there was a petition that went out through my community, and it had over 3,700 people in support of this. I also got support from the other members of my delegation, the support from the county executive of Charles County for this one as well, because 210 runs through Prince George's County and Charles County. And you'll also see a letter of support from the State of Maryland Commission on Indian Affairs, as well as we'll have support. There's some people to testify. I believe that we have at least one person to testify on behalf of it. So thank you all for your patience from a year ago. This is a bill that took a long time to get going. I first introduced it when my daughter was like 13 and she's now 24, when she pointed out that she thought it was a negative connotation. With that being said, I'd open it up to any questions that you all may have, and thank you again.
Yeah, before I recognize Delegate Clark, I will say that ordinarily to get a bill off the Rules Committee, the sponsor has to come and bug me. Whereas in this case, I spotted it and asked and told him I was bringing it off rules. So
and I meant to thank you for that too. Thank you so much, Chairman Barbary, for that.
Okay, Delegate Clark has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate Walker, I think it's a great idea. I have no problem with it, but I just have one question. Wasn't there or is there still a Piscataway Road?
Yes.
In that part of Prince George's County?
Yes. And you know what? And we've got several Livingston roads. If you live down my way, we've got several Livingston roads. We've got a Livingston Highway.
Yeah.
There will be nothing uncommon, but Piscataway Highway will be dominant coming down. And also, you got to keep in mind when you're going around the Beltway, what are we saying? When you come from Virginia into Maryland, going by National Harbor, the very first sign you see says Indian Head. We need to change that.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. I just remembered that Piscataway Road from my youth.
Yes.
I used to run them streets. Thank you.
Right, only 20 years ago. Okay, Delegate Boyce.
I wish it was 20 years ago.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank the sponsor for bringing this back again. This had a lot of conversation last year and a lot of interest about changing the name. I know we talked about what it would be and said it should be left up to the community. And so I'm glad that this is back and this is what we're going to do. And I really can't wait to support it and get it out of committee. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Delegate Branch.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I'm here I'm not going to call you Q-Ma.
Just kid.
But I am here to assist and join Delegate Walker in the efforts of getting this highway name changed. And the Maryland Indians have been in Maryland since the early 1600s, as most people know, and probably even longer. But the Scatterway Kanoi, Piscataway Indian Nation, the Piscataway Cedar Band, as well as the entire Indian Commission that Delegate Walker mentioned. There are an additional 5 other, it's a total of 8 tribes in Maryland, and all of them agree that this is something that should be done. For 7 years or so, they have been collecting names petitioned, I think they have like 5,000 signatures. And they've been doing this over the years in efforts to present this to the county to help them get this name changed from what they believe is a derogatory term, as Delegate Walker said. So I have a letter that one of them sent to me, and I'm just going to read an excerpt from it. And it says that my mother told me that the heads of Indians were moved and placed on stakes as a warning to Indian coming through the area. As you know, our people didn't write history books. Our history is carried through the generations by stories we carry. The story is not of honor. We should not honor this name of Indian Head Highway. We should, however, include the Native Americans into the conversation as it is derogatory to us. Please honor our wishes and start righting some of the wrongs against our people. So that was the letter, an excerpt from the letter that he sent. And I had absolutely no idea that they were hanging heads on the road. And he said that his mother had expressed that to him. And I had heard that before, but to actually see it written in the letter, pushed me and made me want to be a testifier against this derogatory name that exists on the Highway 210. So, Mr. Chairman, for those reasons, I would ask for a favorable report.
Right, and to the newer, thank you, Delegate, and to the newer members of our committee and our legislature, I just want to say that the majority whip has Native American ancestry himself, of which he is very proud, and
yes.
And so that's why it's especially meaningful for him to testify here today. Delegate Lehman has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Delegate Walker, thank you so much for following through on this and coming back with it. I just wanted to express my gratitude, similar to what Delegate Boyce said. I think when you came here last year and told us the story about the history of the name, I think most of us on this committee, if not all of us, weren't ready to change it right then and there. So I appreciate the follow-up. A quick question about the petition. Was that just an effort to make sure that all the local folks were in agreement, that they didn't have some other name in mind other than Indian Head, and that you just wanted to show kind of that solidarity, or what was the purpose of the petition?
If you went on the site, there was a petition that was actually driven by the citizens there. They heard about the legislation that we had, and then they carried it on. And then there were some other names that were kind of, mentioned in there as well. There was a push for, I think, my initial idea, if you remember, was to come back and call it Marshall Highway after Thurgood Marshall. But then it just made more sense to do the right thing, to take a negative connotation, make it positive. And then once I mentioned that to my group, then they all started saying, yes, this is the absolute right thing to do.
Okay. And if I could add, the Native American, the Kanoi tribe itself, their members went out collecting names from and support in efforts to get this done as well, with like 5,000 signatures. And that's added to what Delegate Walker's community has already done. And I think many of the members of the Indian Commission can attest or either produce those signatures if necessary.
Great. Thank you so much for that. And again, thank you for taking on the issue. And I think this is a beautiful way of resolving it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. No one else has signed up to testify in favor of the bill. No one is against the bill. So thank you, Delegates Walker and Branch. Very much appreciated.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Want to move favorable?
Soon enough. Okay. And now let's turn to the last bill of the afternoon, House Bill 1391, Delegate Frazier Hidalgo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I apologize. I went to just go get a little drink, and apparently I popped up while I was away.
Okay.
So House Bill 1391, the committee has heard of this version of this bill over the last couple of years. And the last couple of years, we've never really been able to get it out intact. This is a similar version that we've had, but this year I intend to do everything I can to get it out. We had COVID issues, we had some federal issues last year, and I think this will probably be the last time that we push forward and entertain a excise tax credit for standard electric vehicles, just because things are changing so quickly, and the uptake of electric vehicles is finally starting to pick up. And I think this is just the one last push we need. I won't belabor the committee too much, but most of you probably know that 29% to 32% of greenhouse gas emissions that are coming from the transportation sector currently. So that's why we are pushing EVs as hard as we can. You probably also know that the asthma rate in Maryland is pretty high. We had over 29,000 asthma-related emergency room visits last year. Again, this is from pollution. So when we look at transitioning to electric vehicles, we're not only talking about helping the planet and for carbon emissions, but also pollution in kids. We spend $27.7 billion a year in emergency room bronchial-related asthmatic issues with kids. That's off the charts, and that's crazy. We shouldn't be doing that. If we can move zeros and ones from the column of pollution or public health to dealing with this, then I think that would go a long way in helping. The Zero Emission Vehicle Committee, of which I'm a member, as are a couple of other members, a couple of other people in the General Assembly, have recommended pushing forward on this bill as well. I think there's a letter that you have from them, and we are just trying to get to the 300,000 mark of electric vehicles. In 2013, we had an MOU that we signed off with other states and to reach 300,000 vehicles, of which we're getting there. I think we're a little over 40,000 now. And this bill, you've also heard the Teams bill from the administration. I have been in talks with the administration on combining pieces of our bills to get the best possible piece, the best possible bill to move forward. And the reason I say that is that this is a moving bill. Like in just months, things are changing. So the industry is changing. One of the things that I want to mention that is not completely in this bill, but will be amended to be in this bill, is just the covering of other sectors that are also transitioning that are important. For example, we heard a couple of years ago, I think it was last year, the year before, from Automotive, a company that has a transportation, a car, if you will, but it's kind of a car and a motorcycle. It's two wheels in the front, one in the back. I want to make sure that that's all electric, that they qualify for some piece of an incentive. Aptera is another one that does that, as well as the regular cars and motorcycles. So I want to make sure we capture that. And I think that the Teams bill may have some trucking involved, so we want to look at that as well. There's also some new industries that are coming about that are electric that have to do with farming equipment or particularly industrial equipment, like forklifts and that kind of thing. And I want to make sure, if we can, we capture that industry as well. You'll hear from Matt Boley, who is representing a client that is opening a facility here in the state of Maryland, Maryland jobs. And I think that he'll be talking a little bit about that, which is super exciting. I think that's it for the bill. I mean, it is a moving target. You will see a lot of people favorable. Tesla is favorable.
Well, Dave, you're about to run out of time, so maybe we should just go.
Done. You can see all the favorable people, so I'll let you go. Thank you.
Well, let's start with Pete Kitzmiller with the Automobile Dealers Association. Pete, welcome to the committee. You have 2 minutes, sir.
I do not believe he is present.
Okay, so how about Paul Taberzi? I did see him.
Mr. Chairman, Chairman Barve, Paul Taberzi, I'm the Maryland Counsel for General Motors, have been for many years. General Motors is in strong support of the bill. And I think, as you know, GM is a leader on electric vehicles. In fact, Mr. Chairman, you may remember last year on House Bill 44, in real time, while the bill was being heard, you announced, you had read it, that GM had committed to be all electric by 2030 while you were hearing the bill. And I wish I had orchestrated that, but it was just good karma. So GM made that announcement last year. This is a terrific bill. We're going to get it passed this year. We have written testimony from General Motors, and we support the bill as it is. And I note that we think the $55,000 price limit makes sense. It would make this credit available to more people with lower cost vehicles like our Bolt and our Equinox, trying to sell some GM cars, Mr. Chairman. So we do like the bill, and we like what the subcommittee chair has chosen to put in for the $55,000 limit. I'll end by saying this committee has a great tradition in history in supporting electric vehicles. I go back to the days when you passed HOV lanes for electric vehicles some years back. Delegate Healy and Delegate Holmes and others of the veterans with me will remember that. And this bill would continue the terrific leadership and tradition of this committee and Maryland, which GM supports and appreciates. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
Well, Paul, be careful because the vice chairman has a bill, passed a bill that goes into effect soon that delineates what the qualifications of car salesmen have to be. So you got your licks in.
I'm violating the law, but that's okay.
No, not yet. It's not in effect yet. Matthew Ball, Matthew, are you with us?
Yes.
Yes.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Matthew Boley of Rifkin Wiener Livingston here on behalf of Greenland Technologies Corporation in support of HB 1391 with amendments. First, I'd like to thank the bill sponsor, Delegate Frazier Hidalgo. We've been working on these amendments with him, and I'm aware that he wants to see some form of this credit included in this legislation. I'm very appreciative of that. Greenland Technologies is a leading manufacturer of zero-emission heavy equipment property, forklifts, loaders, excavators, and the like. Greenland is headquartered in New Jersey with their current manufacturing located in China. However, I'm excited to inform this body that Greenland's first American assembly facility will be located in Maryland. It is expected to be open by the end of the year, and we will soon have this new, clean, green equipment being made in Maryland. With that news noted, on the bill, our amendments create a credit for zero-emission heavy equipment property. There are several reasons this credit is so important for Maryland. Not only will this credit help create green manufacturing jobs in Maryland, the credit will help spur clean, zero-emission equipment in a market that is small, but experiencing strong growth. Additionally, increased adoption of this clean equipment will enable us to achieve emission and noise reduction in communities that have long been negatively impacted by industrial activity. Last, Greenland has a strong focus on research and development and will be in a good company given Maryland's world-class universities and research facilities. As example, Greenland has entered into a strategic partnership with New Energy for the recycling of lithium-ion batteries. This partnership seeks to create a safe and sustainable solution for the end of life of lithium-ion batteries used in this equipment. This partnership is one small piece of Greenland's commitment to sustainability. For these reasons, I request our amendments be adopted and a favorable report on HB 1391.
Thank you very much. Next, let me recognize Josh Fisher with the Alliance for Automotive Innovation. Josh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nice to see you. Vice Chair, members of the committee, Josh Fisher with the Alliance for Automotive Innovation. As you know, we represent the automakers. We are supportive of 1391, and we included a couple suggested amendments in our letter. So the auto industry is totally committed to an electrified future and supportive of policies like this that promote consumer incentives because they're a critical way to help increase EV deployment. As Delegate Frazier Hidalgo noted, Maryland previously set a goal of 60,000 EVs on the road by 2020, and we're about 42,000 right now, and there's a goal of 300,000 by 2025. So there's a long way to go, and policies like this can help Maryland get there. The other thing to keep in mind is that long ago, Maryland chose to follow California's Advanced Clean Cars rule. That rule is going to be updated later this year to require 100% EV sales by the year 2035. But more importantly, in 2026, it's going to require that 1 out of every 3 new vehicles sold in Maryland be an electric vehicle. Right now, it's only about 5% of new vehicles sold are electric vehicles. So bills like this can help jumpstart the market and give Maryland a fighting chance to actually meet the requirements that are going to be under California's new Clean Cars rule. A couple of notes on our amendments. $10 million is a good start. We would suggest more. We all know from past experience that the money in this program has gone very quickly. And second, we would suggest not lowering the price cap. Right now, the average cost of an electric vehicle is $60,000, which would be below the price cap in this bill. And in order for EVs to succeed in Maryland, for Maryland to succeed at achieving its goals, all EVs have to be successful regardless of their price. So thank you for your time today and appreciate consideration of our amendments.
Thank you. I understand Pete Kitzmiller is now with us. So Pete, welcome to the committee. Sir, you have 2 minutes. Pete?
I think he may be having internet issues. Trish did let him in, but he's not here now.
Okay, well, let's
Mr. Chairman, I did have a meeting this morning with Pete, and I know he is on the other side of the country, so he may be mobile and he may very well indeed be having internet issues.
Okay, let's turn to Cassandra Griffin. Cassandra, welcome to the committee. You have 2 minutes.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be here.
Honorable Chair, Vice Chair, Subcommittee Chair, and committee members. My name is Cassandra Griffin. I'm testifying today on behalf of Forth, a national nonprofit organization that advances electric mobility. I'm dialing in from Oregon, but we work nationally, and my in-laws are in Moncton in rural Baltimore County. So I spend some time in your great state. First, I want to commend you for your public service. You all have had a long day so far. We were watching the floor session and now watching this long committee meeting. So thank you for your service. I'm here to testify in support of House Bill 1391, which will support Maryland's ambitious 2030 Greenhouse Gas Reduction Act. We enthusiastically support tax incentives for electric vehicles in general. We think they're absolutely necessary for widespread adoption of electric vehicles. I appreciate Delegate Frazier Hidalgo's point that hopefully after a few more years that won't be necessary anymore, but it's definitely still necessary right now. We also are happy to see the addition of incentives for 2- and 3-wheeled vehicles included in this bill, because smaller vehicles are inherently more efficient than bigger ones and achieve more benefits. We have been working with Delegate Frazier Hidalgo on an amendment to add auto cycles explicitly to the potential beneficiaries, page 2, line 25. And we're working to amend the bill to revise Maryland's definition of auto cycle entirely to be more inclusive of innovative electric technology and steering technology specifically. The current Maryland definition of auto cycle is unnecessarily restrictive and specifies that you have to have a steering wheel in a vehicle in order for it to qualify under the auto cycle definition, which gives a exemption from a motorcycle license requirement for certain 3-wheeled vehicles. So while we're working on giving financial incentives to electric vehicles, we want to also make sure that Maryland is doing this other thing to make it easier for the 3-wheeled vehicles to get in.
If you could begin to wind up the committee.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Auto cycles should be defined based on safety features and handling and not on steering technology. The ultimate goal is to keep people safe while getting more and more ultra efficient vehicles on the roads to achieve our carbon reductions goals.
Okay, thank you so much. Next, let's turn to Joel Sheltrown with Arcimoto.
Mr. Chairman and members of the, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Environment and Transportation Committee. My name is Joel Sheltron. I'm a former state representative in Michigan. I was termed out in 2010. Since that time, I've worked around the nation to modernize statutes to account for the new innovative products in the transportation sector. I'm here representing Arcimoto, an American manufacturer of innovative 3-wheel motor vehicle. Arcimoto is a front-wheel drive electric vehicle. It has all the characteristics of Maryland's classification for auto cycle, except a steering wheel. Since it is a front-wheel drive vehicle, it handles like an automobile. It has a roll cage frame meeting FMVSS 216A standards for roof crush. It has a 6-point lap and shoulders belt system, which is twice the protection that's in your automobile. Arcimoto is a strong supporter of House Bill 1391, as legislation will help lower the price of electric vehicles and help promote their acceptance. In addition, I believe the amendment has been offered, which would strike wheel and add mechanism to the auto cycle definition. This change will modernize the statute to account for new innovative products such as the Arcimoto. With the advancement in autonomous vehicles, steering wheels are in danger of becoming as obsolete as a buggy whip. For example, the Tesla Model S is now being shipped with a steering yoke. Other companies are testing joysticks. GM recently petitioned NHTSA to eliminate rules for steering wheels for one of their autonomous vehicles, and Arcimoto is testing an autonomous version with a steering bar. I'd like to point out that the amendment striking wheel and adding mechanism will not create a loophole, allowing true motorcycles to be considered an auto cycle. It will not eliminate manufacturers currently classified as an auto cycle. I appreciate and understand the hard work you do, and thank you for the opportunity. And finally, if Delegate McKay is still around, I would like to get some of that coal dust hair covering that he's been talking about.
We'll make sure it is shipped to you, toot sweet. Is Pete Kitzmiller with us? Maybe the third time is a charm. No, apparently not. Well, we have a question from the vice chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Delegate Frazier Hidalgo, I sort of wholeheartedly support this bill. We have to do everything we can to accelerate the purchase of EVs in Maryland. My question is about the comment that MEA made about whether we should make it retroactive to 2020, that it'd be rewarding past efforts, would take off the boards, decent chunk of the funding that's available under the bill. Do you have any reaction to that idea?
Yeah, my dad used to say there's no good moves in a bad position. He was a big chess player, and we've done it both ways in the past, and it's tough. But when you're looking forward and you're trying to incentivize future purchases, it makes it tough to look back. I guess this is going to be something that the subcommittee and the chair, we're going to have to talk about to figure out what the best way. We have a limited amount of money. So what makes the best way, what's the best way to get through? I know that the way the bill is written now, it takes us through to 2025, which is our first or our second ZEV goal. We're just going to have to work through it. I'm not 100% sure the best way to do it, but again, the more money moving forward, the better.
Okay, thank you.
No good moves in a bad position. I'm going to remember that one.
Yeah.
Okay, there appear to be no further questions, and unfortunately, Pete Kitzmiller hasn't been able to get through to us, but we can read his testimony later. So that ends the public hearing schedule for this afternoon. We have, I'm going to give you all 10 minutes Trish will need a little bit of time to set up for the voting session. So, well, let's make it 15 minutes. 4:45, we will have our voting session. So don't wander too far, people. See you then.